Welcome back to another episode of the JustUs Podcast, everybody. I'm here with Fred, Tubbs, and today we're going all into the Monsterverse.
Roar! Hey guys.
Appropriate.
All right.
That's a mix of the Kong and Godzilla roar. I tried. I tried.
Viva la raza. Monkey.
Kongzilla. But
Okay.
yeah, so we've pretty much revisited all 4 movies that were made for the Monsterverse, specifically the ones made by Legendary, which involve Warner Brothers, and we'll definitely share our thoughts on what we think about these films, like as a whole, or rather the franchise, because like generally speaking, the Monsterverse itself is pretty enjoyable, I'd say, but there are some things that I want to try and go over detail by detail before we, continue. But that being said, let's dive in, shall we?
Yes.
All right.
So first up, it's the 2014 Godzilla movie. Now, let it be said that Godzilla and the American adaptations have been kind of, they vary from how they're done. Now, as far as I can tell, the first one was made many, many years ago, before the 1997 version, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Yeah, 98.
98.
98, I think it was like the American Zilla.
Yeah.
But I remember there was another one that was made beforehand. Either way, we'll share our quick
really?
thoughts on
Well.
we'll share our quick thoughts on the 1997 Zilla before my memory starts to come back on the other prior possible American Godzilla adaptation. But yeah, Zilla, he's definitely not Godzilla, is he?
Just Silla.
Yeah, they took the god out of Godzilla. Like, it's like we get it. Like, we get that this guy is pretty much an example of people being upset that, he's not really based on, Godzilla. And that's fine. I appreciate them trying to be different, but at the same time, it looks more like they tried so hard to capitalize on the success of Godzilla, or rather Jurassic Park, but far too late, because Godzilla himself is different from Jurassic Park. Like, he's a giant dinosaur for sure, but he's not really like that, to be exact.
Yeah, Godzilla is complex by its own.
Yeah, I mean, okay, sure. Like, they involve humans that are pretty much trying to mess things up. Like, I get that, but at the same time, it makes you wonder why they're trying to go. It just feels like they're aping too similarly to the sort of Godzilla, Jurassic Park stuff. Which, again, I have no sympathy going for, but
The 2014 movie, you mean it goes too similar to with Jurassic Park or the old one?
I'm talking about the American Zilla.
From the 98?
Yeah. So yeah, now I
Okay.
remember that that's the first ever American adaptation for Godzilla. And as we all know,
Yeah.
it wasn't hot. But at least people that have a soft spot for it can know for a fact that, the character has some form of presence as regular old Zilla.
Okay, yeah.
Now then,
Yeah.
legendary Godzilla. This guy definitely has a lot of expectations for people that are either huge fans of the monster himself, the kaiju King of the Kaiju is pretty exact, although he's pretty much a god. Yeah, and setting aside the way people tend to complain about how American film adaptations try to ruin the Japanese versions, I keep that shit out of my mind because I want to see what this film can offer, and you know what? I'd say it did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I like the way you said that the 98 version is like taking Godzilla, but only the Zilla. I think the one from 2014 takes only the God, because you barely see Godzilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
pure presence up until the end. We all know Garrett Edwards. He did Rogue One and other movies.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
works so well with scales. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, he
That
does.
is a Shelley.
And tell you the truth, like I wasn't even upset about the lack of Godzilla to some extent because aside from a few moments, I know the main fact was just the human race reacting to this monster. Like they don't know
Exactly.
what he's capable
Mhm.
of, and like the fact that there's also other monsters roaming around causing trouble, it's proof that they pretty much need to be aware of this sort of shit. And I think the 2014 movie did a good job, as well as the fact that it also proves how people, even not entirely involved with this sort of kaiju experimentations or hunts, will be affected as well. As well, Saw,
Yeah.
one of the main character's mother, pretty much gets presumably killed, or perhaps gets into quarantine, or is infected entirely, as her husband can't save her.
No, it's sort of like that. And yeah, and then well, I don't want to get too excited, but you know what's also playing like what I think is that maybe the movie wasn't benefited by the fact that Bryan Cranston at that moment was super popular because of Breaking Bad and the inside.
Yeah, that's true.
Like that was the thing for the movie to do for the public, but inside the movie it makes sense because later on the son has to kind of be developed out of that.
Yeah.
That's right. Plus,
I mean,
you
in
can
my
really
case, well, I just want to share, an experience with the movie that the first time that I watched it, for me it was a complete garbage. Let me explain. Let me explain. Because at that time, it was a different me. I had different. Uh, it was different, and I just wanna see the fucking monster fighting another monster. That's it. I don't want more. No, but many years, I guess 2 years or 3 years maybe, and then I found, I I don't know, but I found a masterpiece of movie, in my opinion, that it was really, it was unfair. It was really unfair. That critics about not showing the monster at the first time.
Yeah.
Because they build that, their appearance, and they, I still have, this goosebumps when the first appearance of Godzilla, bro.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
Definitely, man.
And the build up to that moment, wow.
that moment was like, oh my god, there is, there is a god right there.
It's all worth it.
Yeah, man. Woof. And then, well, maybe we want to talk more later, but I want to say that, I mean, I find a complete masterpiece, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm kind of relating what you just said to another topic. It's similar to what happened with Batman v Superman with Superman. When people say he has no lines, he barely appears.
Oh, yeah.
It's so dumb. Those arguments for critics are so dumb because you
Yeah.
don't really understand the movie itself. You don't essentially understand the movie at all. The movie is still all around Godzilla. You don't need to see him to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like sort of like random topic again, but like it kind of reminds me when people bitch about the lack of Transformer screen time. I mean, okay,
Oh, that too.
like the main characters are like the main robots you're going to focus on would generally be Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Megatron, and whoever is the other antagonist aside from Megatron, whether it's a Decepticon or a human. And
Mhm.
like even if they're not always around, the plot still revolves around them specifically. Plus, like these guys are giants. Sure, they're smaller than Godzilla for sure, but there's plenty of them, and they're the main focus is about their race, pretty much being involved with
Yeah.
the war that they're in,
Mhm.
and I think it just shows the fact that people are more interested in fucking 80s nostalgia crap. And in the
They
case
are, man.
and in the case of nostalgia Superman fans, they just want him to wear red underwear and look into Lois Lane's vagina and say like I like thank you very much, Lois.
Yeah, they want that. That's like the nerd culture. And, well, the stupid people who only want to see dumb blockbusters. That's basically that demographic.
But as for the Godzilla fans that might not like this movie, I wouldn't really put them under those sort of categories either. I mean, at least they appreciate kaiju's better than critics do. We pretty much want to
Yeah.
go into like super political comments, which we'll talk about when we get to King of the Monsters. Spoiler alert, that's my favorite movie out of the Monsterverse. Back to this one. One thing I always like about the fact is how, even though we have the other monsters that are involved, Godzilla is still seen as a threat just because of his size and the fact that he has all this power to him. But even then, he's not really the enemy. He is not our enemy, Bruce.
He's not our enemy.
Well, I would say that Godzilla first one, this one, is my favorite, but it's not the one I would watch the most at all.
Yeah. But
Like in repeated times, I wouldn't watch it that much. I would treasure it once in a while.
same.
I'm sorry, got lost. What were you refer?
Oh, like Godzilla, the 2014 one is my favorite out of the Monsterverse. I think it's my favorite movie, but I wouldn't watch it the most.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's like
more to appreciate than just watch it and watch it again and again. No, I mean, it's better to
you can always have it playing in the background. I mean,
watch something with care. I mean, not watching again for 10 times or go to the movies to see the same movie for 10 times and make it the first blockbuster of the world.
Yeah, which is different to School Island, for example, which you can watch it like 1,000 of times and it's still super fun. You don't really care.
Yeah,
it's true.
I mean, and there was one. Well, I don't know if we finished with Godzilla, the 2014, or no?
Yeah, I'm almost done with it.
Well,
One thing I also want to add on to the fact is that
I'm sorry.
the new characters, the new monsters, the MUTOs, I really had to appreciate them for feeling like they've been around with the mythos because, as we found out later on, they're pretty much like original creations. But props to the developers, the designers, for making them feel like they've been around. Like they can almost imagine it being retroactively added in the Japanese lore. And it reminds me of when they create new ideas that actually add to the character's background, and it works very nicely. In fact, I'd rather take this sort of stuff than say retconning constant backstories or saying, "Oh no, like this new movie is like the true sequel to the successful one," as we saw in a lot of 80s movies. Yeah, like overall, I have to say that the 2014 Godzilla movie, like I agree with you guys, it's enjoyable, and more importantly, it's definitely putting the God into Godzilla. Maybe not as much Zilla as we'd hope, but at the very least, it does the size of him justice, and more importantly, the importance of his character.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hell, I even like the fact that when the Mutos were pretty much done for, Godzilla left. Like, he only wants to try and... Like, he's a misunderstood creature. Like, everyone else sees him as a threat, but all he wants to do is just, like, destroy other monsters and pretty much be done with it. Now, does that make him a true villain?
Exactly.
Does that
He
make him
knows
a
his
true
job.
good guy? I wouldn't see him as a true good guy still,
Protector.
but he's valuable nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you kind of feel bad for Godzilla at the end, and he leaves. Yeah.
Yep. But at the very least, he was very capable of stopping the villains, and more importantly, I'm very happy to have enjoyed the movie, especially when it came to seeing everyone reunite once and for all as the dust unsettles. Or is it dust settles? Mm.
Both.
Next up, we'll be taking a look at Kong Skull Island. Now, this time we go into the monkey.
Dun, 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 dun.
Here comes the monkey.
Well,
Bro,
can
I
we
really
say
love
first?
that song, man.
Can we first take a look at the original King Kong real quick? Like, not necessarily like the
Alright.
original one. I mean, like the 2005 ish remake.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
it pretty much feels like we're like being like anticlimactic there, but like, tell you the truth, you know, Kong himself is pretty much always great to have. But that being said, I actually did like the 2005 remake of King Kong. Now, of course, he is pretty much the king, but what I like more about the 2005 film was the fact that it understands Godzilla's rival, King Kong, better. Now, of course, those versions never met. Whereas TriStar is trying so hard to modernize Godzilla, I do find the fact that whoever made the 2005 King Kong movie, was it Universal? Like, they did a much better job of handling the character better, because it's not like they're going to give him a tail. It's not like they're going to give him a tail, or it's not like they're going to make him look like a cartoony monkey, or make him look like a robot or anything. Like, he's pretty much a strong gorilla that is meant to be a modern take on the character, or rather the concepts. But in the case of Kong Skull Island, it goes from being like a modern version of an original classic to being a brand new reboot, refreshing take on the guy. New story, mostly.
Yeah. And you get that Apocalypse Now vibes throughout all the movie. I really like it.
Definitely. Especially when it comes to the fact that the Hollow Earth itself is very different from what they're used to.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, Peter Jackson did that 2005 King Kong movie. And Peter Jackson is Peter Jackson, so he does his stuff very well. But I think with this one, they focused, and in their screenplay, they focused a lot on the human part and trying to subvert a lot of expectations all the time. In a good way, not Marvel way, like rock falling over mantis kind of funny.
Yeah.
More like more like, I don't know, just making a really dramatic scene and at the same time a huge joke. We all know which scene I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Also, the fact that they had
Like-
stuff like the Black Sabbath music "Paranoid," while like still playing at one point after one of the helicopters has been damaged, kind of made me chuckle a bit, because, well, you would expect them to stop playing the music, but it's like, no, it keeps going.
No, yeah, it's bonkers. It's so crazy all the time.
Yeah. Even like with the guy exploding everything in the island, it kind of reminds me of that one song, "America, fuck yeah." In before some stupid journalist tries to compare political stuff with a movie about a giant monkey. It's funny.
But this
Samuel Jackson.
but this is the giant monkey. It's not.
The monkey.
Yeah, he's like, he may not be called a king, but he is definitely worthy of the title.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, that title of king. I mean, it's worthy. I mean, but I mean, I don't feel it too much. I mean, he's.
Be careful with the next thing you say.
I don't care, man. I mean, this is like.
Fred,
I don't know.
Fred,
I don't know if he's a king. I mean, he's more like a book. It's more like a guardian. I mean, I don't feel the king come. I mean, and I love the movie. I mean, you know it.
that wasn't very careful, Fred.
But I mean, I don't feel that king, that part of King Kong. I don't know, or it's just me, maybe. I don't know, but that's it. I mean, the never. Now we are going to talk about the movie, but now we're on this movie.
Well, can we talk about the human cast this time around?
Yeah.
Personally, like, not many of the humans from the 2014 movie stood out aside from the main protagonist, but I don't remember his name or the actor who portrayed him. Ironically, I know another actress, Elizabeth Olsen. It's mainly because I recognize her name, and I've seen her in other stuff, mainly the MCU, because of her playing Scarlet Witch and the like. But in this case, we have more familiar faces, especially with the likes of Samuel L. Jackson, as mentioned earlier, and Brie Larson. Now, of course, we all know Brie Larson is pretty much known for being kind of narcissistic, I guess, like egocentric. Everything revolves around her. The yes queen sort of mentality. And before all this Captain Marvel nonsense, before all this thinking about Stan, Rip, what a legend, bullshit, I think she was pretty good in this film. Now, of course, that automatically doesn't make me into a Brie Larson stan, assuming those still exist. Maybe they don't exist as much because they're standing the next actress, but like, it's kind of funny.
Who is Brie Larson? Are you talking about the YouTuber or the actress?
The actress. If the
Because the YouTuber is awesome. I watch all her videos, man. So good.
I think Film God watched them too. I think he was pretty much hoping for her to like say, fine, I guess you could be my little PogChamp. Come here. And Film God would be like, yay! Okay, everybody, click like, because I like. Let me know in the comments below. If you can share. And then you smash that motherfucking subscribe button. Film God, please don't get mad if you say this.
They need to fucking marry. Why haven't she noticed him already?
Because Grace Randolph is trying to go after Film God.
Oh, that horror.
Yeah, the horror. Because I'm trying not to go in a different direction with that word. But, yeah. Brie Larson in this movie, not bad. It all depends on how you use her. Kind of like with any other actor. I mean, okay, we'll be honest. For anyone that is super mad about us shitting on Brie Larson, okay. We'll say this. Giggly and Daredevil. Like, Ben Affleck in those movies sucked. There you go. Now leave us alone. Because we're going to talk about more about Kong.
I'm triggered.
Well, don't be triggered. You're not a Brie Larson stan.
Damn it.
But
okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have Tom Hiddleston, we have Brie Larson, we have Samuel L. Jackson.
See, it's a non-MCU movie, but in this case, it actually stands out because it's not the same sort of formula.
No. Let me tell you something. This is not No. That's actually an MCU movie because that's one of the missions that Loki are there.
Oh,
I mean, he needs to change something he made in the past. I'm just gonna let that there.
Oh wow!
It makes sense. So this was a prequel to the TV show that's coming.
I'm not gonna say nothing.
Now Fred's making his own fan theories.
Just think
doing the iceberg thing.
Hey, saying that Loki was in Kong Skull Island makes more sense than people saying that Tom Holland is Iron Man Jr. or the same kid that was from Iron Man 2. You know, the same kid that was like
Oh
doing
yeah.
stand-up.
What the fuck with that theory? It sucks. Like it's not even good. It sucks, and people want to convince you that that was fucking Peter Parker.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Kevin Feige is all like, "Oh my god, can you guys please shut up about it? I'm swimming in my money that Walter Hamada can't even get." But yeah, yeah.
No,
Moving on. Like, yeah, this movie, Kong Skull Island, I enjoy as well. But
Yeah.
there's more to talk about it as
One of my
well.
favorites.
Like, let us
One of my
say,
favorites.
like, let's talk about Kong more as well. Like, I like the fact that even though he's already a strong character, like he's still quite in that sort of I guess primitive stage because he's definitely a changed individual when we go to Godzilla v Kong.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that he's like still got his prime in him because it's not like the Kong in Godzilla v Kong is suddenly an old man with a walking stick like Cranky Kong.
Yeah, they set him up all right, good, and he's like you can see he's warm. His heart is warm. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
And you kind of see his heroic part. So it makes sense later on when you watch Godzilla vs. Kong that he's sort of the hero.
And speaking of which, there's also the mention of the fact that his family, or at least his ancestors, were killed in battle with the dinosaurs.
Oh,
True. They gave him a legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's the last one.
Yeah, like they definitely treat him as an important character. Like the fact that people would immediately think like, oh, like this is just some dumb movie. Like, no, it's not. Like this movie definitely has a lot going for it beyond the action, and it definitely sets up Kong as more than just a big monkey. I mean, he transcends from monkey jokes to a genuine individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the movie's aware of everything it does. So conscious.
And more importantly, like it doesn't like rub it in your face. Like it pretty much has Kong like contrast humans, but still feel like he's important. He's more than just a CGI showcase of how much has changed. He's also part of the story as well. Much like with Godzilla from the last movie, the plot still revolves around the big monster in this case, that being Kong in this movie compared to last time, which was Godzilla.
Yeah. It has a lighter tone, like bloggers like to say. And it is overall more enjoyable and fun because they probably heard the critics from the past one. But it still tries to do something different around blockbusters. It's not just simple, dumb action.
Yeah. Like,
so I appreciate that.
Yeah, like, especially considering the fact that this is like that this is the kind of character we're talking about. Like the character like King Kong and Godzilla, like those guys are more than just action movies. Like they're icons. And I think this movie did them justice wonderfully.
No, yeah, they don't disrespect any of them anytime. And that's why I like the movies. It's not like the MCU, which sometimes to make a joke have a payoff, they disrespect the characters. Here they know when and how. That's different.
Yeah. Don't worry, MCU fans. We like Phase 1. We mean it this time. We actually do like Phase 1. In fact, we're going to try and review it next. We're going to try and review some of the Phase 1 movies later in the year. So,
I do.
Don't get upset, MCU fans. And for any DC fans that are lap dancing, go eat Walter Hamada's dick. Next up, we're going to be talking about Godzilla King of the Monsters. Now, let me say this once again. This is my favorite Monsterverse movie by far. And it's not like the fact that it's like the best one by default, but it's just the fact that Like, it goes beyond the sort of, like, stupid complaints that the fucking critics made, and it goes even further with bringing in, you know, Godzilla without having people think it's too repetitive from the first movie.
Yeah. It is more dense. It is more maybe slow at times, and you get confused with the pace. But the movie's actually very good with what it tries to do, and I think that's like a merit for writers, not too much from the directors, aside from the style, which is great. And yeah, it is not my favorite, to be honest.
That's fine.
Previously,
Like, I
but
appreciate
I really liked some of it.
Like, I appreciate the fact that it has that doesn't just feel like a new coat of skin for or a new coat of paint for the first Godzilla movie. Like, it does more things, such as mentioning the fact that we have eco terrorists involved. We have
Yeah.
a new monster, an original, like a more well known monster, Mothra, as well as Ghidorah,
Yeah.
and
Oof.
like
Mothra.
the fact that
I
everyone is
really
pretty
love
much like trying to like understand the importance of Godzilla. I mean, some people understand why he needs to exist, while others say that, well, like he's a monster, like he caused destruction. Of course, we could definitely say, oh,
Yeah.
people are afraid of what they don't understand. But it's like, you know what I'm saying? That like you can definitely see like the conflict between the human race when it comes to how they view Godzilla.
Yeah, you see all that perspective, and it's more political. So that's why it has a lot of similarities with Batman v Superman, or people like to say it has a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in this case, it's more subtle than the next movie we'll talk about.
Oh,
Okay.
But
dude,
yeah,
Godzilla
let's.
versus Kong is everything except subtle.
Well, we'll definitely go there in a bit. But like giving attention to King of the Monsters, like aside from the fact that it mentions the monsters, like that we get, like they definitely do the other characters, or rather in this case, monsters justice. Like Rodan feels like Rodan, Mothra feels like Mothra, Ghidorah feels like Ghidorah, and Godzilla is still Godzilla. Although this time, like
Here's Godzilla.
like now we have people that are pretty much trying to see what he's up to more closely. I mean, they're going to find out about what he has in mind when it comes to the Earth, and they
Yeah.
do a very good job, especially with understanding like his role in the planet.
Yeah, he's very aware of his role.
Yeah.
And he takes it seriously all the time during the movie.
For sure.
The thing is, what I struggle the most with this movie is like the portrayals of the human characters. I just can't really empathize or engage with their problems.
Yeah.
It's not the same. Like Millie Bobby Brown, she's good with Stranger Things, but everything aside from that, I just can't really stand most of her characters. Man, I don't know why.
Maybe it's just one of those things about the way we expect her to be in certain roles. But like generally speaking, I think the humans, like despite the fact that people say like, oh, they have too many humans in the film, like, well, it is what it is. Like, at least they have some sort of role. It's not like they're immediately like taking away attention from Godzilla by saying, "Hey guys, look at me! I'm in this sort of role.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in this movie or that movie or whatever." And
Good thing though is that they casted a Japanese person to say Gojira.
props to them. And it's an immediately better Easter egg than most Easter eggs we see in nerd culture these days. Top 10 references to DC Comics and Marvel Comics in the latest movie. Like, come on, dude. There's more to a film than Easter eggs. And King of the Monsters knows that.
It does.
Yeah.
Another thing I like about King of the Monsters is the fact that, well, as mentioned earlier, my dog pretty much wants me to talk about the elephant in the room. That being the criticisms that people bitch and complain about when it comes to film, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, like I'm also quite surprised with the fact that they're able to try and go desperate for the likes of like nuclear content in a way when it comes to trying to go up against the monster, the kaiju, the Godzilla, the Gojira,
Yeah.
and like pretty much everyone is like still in conflict, even when it comes to the fact that other monsters are around. I remember thinking about when one guy is like ignoring another person when it comes to understanding that, oh no, you gotta understand that she tells a person that Godzilla is needed because the other monsters are going to cause more destruction than he will.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we get
And
stuff
it's-
like I think there's also another mention of like the way they're desperate in making sure that like certain monsters remain around, because I know for a fact that the orca was damaged heavily by Ghidorah, and it's proof that like anything that the humans try to do can't be any benefiting. Like, of course, we all know for a fact
Yeah.
that like them trying to
The
harm
real
Godzilla won't
villains,
do
the real
anything.
villains in this fucking franchise are the humans. They
Yep.
just
Yeah.
shut the fuck up.
Oh my god, it reminded me of those freaking Twitter posts. The movie's villain, the actual villain. It's like, yeah, very creative guys. You've definitely abused it constantly.
Oh yeah.
But in this case, like it definitely is great to see the fact that the monsters, in some ways, aren't always the same sort of antagonistic role that you'd expect. I mean, Mothra pretty much sacrifices herself as well as provide her powers to Godzilla, and like Ghidorah gets taken down.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I really like about this, well, in general, all this Monsterverse, there's context of those monsters. I mean, there's old paintings, and there's a lot of things that uh, give you that feeling of those monsters really, were like gods.
Yeah, that they have like
They
a
could
culture to them.
exist. Yeah.
They have a culture to them.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, they make culture to them. I mean, I really
Yeah.
like that.
like I have to give props to franchises like that, as well as most comic book stuff, as well as like Transformers, where it's like live action stuff. Like, all right, Godzilla's already live action, but they make it feel more like they're part of this world in a way. Not like in most movies where, like, say Sonic, where he feels like he jumped out of a TV screen and caused, chaos, and you had to try and help him find a way back into the video game screen, and then at the end of the movie he winks. No, it's like with the case of the other example, as well as wow, Lucas is freaking angry at me for
Lucas!
dissing the Sonic movie. buddy, it's okay. Look, just because I compared it to the Sonic movie doesn't mean you have to get angry. You're embarrassing me, Lucas.
It's fucking pissed, man. Change your opinion now.
Oh my god. I'm so sorry, Lucas. It's okay, buddy. Want to sit on my lap? You can definitely sit on my lap. Like how they do with cats. But yeah, definitely apologize to Lucas. I'm going to put up a statement saying, on this day, I shat on the Sonic movie without even attempting to shit on it, and Lucas got mad at me. I apologize to the people. But it's like Godzilla isn't like some sort of. Do you mind, please, Lucas? Okay, I'm sorry. Like,
he will need time to calm down. Dogs are like that.
yeah. But I never thought a dog would actually like the Sonic movie.
Me, I don't know. Dogs hate a lot of stuff.
I mean, like, dogs are colorblind. Like, I'm surprised Lucas can easily know the difference between Sonic and Shadow by personality. But yeah,
Like dogs hate mailmans. Sometimes milkman. especially when the milkman goes to visit your mom. What else?
Well, Lucas, every time like the person from Amazon shows up, Lucas freaks out.
Oh,
Yeah.
Maybe Lucas would be a great add to this Monsterverse. I mean, he will be cool.
dude, have you seen Lucas' physique? He's built for it.
Yeah.
Well,
But like
amazing.
the funny thing about Lucas is that he's like, okay, Lucas, we
Yeah,
get
we like it. We like it. He said, yeah.
He wants to be in it. Yeah.
it. Yeah.
The Lucas versus Godzilla versus Kong next year.
Yeah, that'd be great. Hashtag cast Lucas. Oh no, wait. Like hashtag continue the Lucasverse. But yeah, it's like Godzilla in the King of the Monsters film, like as you mentioned, like is given respect in terms of his background. Like he's not like going to go back to a TV screen or feel like he's from some sort of drawing come to life. He's in a way a part of the world, and I can imagine living in that world. And it's both cool and scary at the same time to think about having a kaiju roaming among us.
Yeah.
He kind of like freaking out over like the human race, witnessing the likes of mutants from X-Men, or maybe the Avengers, or the Justice League, or Spider-Man, or the Transformers race.
Yeah.
Now we gotta talk
So,
about
like,
the stupid critics bitching and
Oh, wait,
complaining about.
wait. I just want to mention something. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just want to mention
Go ahead.
something.
go forward.
On my opinion, Godzilla King of Monsters has the best trailers I have ever seen in my life. The first one. The first one. Bro, I really love that trailer. That's
Damn. They
That's-
were great.
that's it.
You know, it's been a
Come
while
on,
since I've seen the
let's-
trailers.
Let's continue.
Like, yeah, like the critics. Now, at this point, we know for a fact that critics aren't our friends. Like, we already mentioned before that we shouldn't let them try and dictate our opinions. I mean, if I was listening to the critics, I would be praising the Star Wars sequel trilogy. I would be praising that stupid Bumblebee movie. I would be praising, like, whatever Disney does. I would be shitting on BVS, or the prequel trilogy, or the Michael Bay Transformers movies. Like, sure, there's movies that I like that have the same score, like Toy Story being a positive, and I like Toy Story, but that shouldn't be the reason why I like Toy Story. And of
Yeah.
course, critics complaining about Godzilla King of the Monsters made me want to see the movie even more, to see like, oh, like I want to do it just to spite you fuckers.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
Mhm.
Now, the way they complain about Godzilla King of the Monsters is fucking asinine. Like there's genuine complaints to make, like saying, oh, like maybe it's just too violent, like, or maybe it's just too like maybe it's just like too much of a focus on humans. Like, okay, sure, that's like those are understandable to some extent, but when you get to shit like this, where you talk about how he gets stuff like fucking political stuff, how it tries to make itself feel like oh, it's like blah blah blah. It's like people in the political era today are a crisis, like blah blah blah, talking about American fascism, like oh blah blah blah. It's like trying to be pseudo intellectual, but it's like, dude, shut the fuck up. It's like no one gives a shit.
Stupid ass.
Yeah, that's like there is no correlation between the legendary kaiju and whatever sort of criticism you want to make about fascism, because like I don't care if you learned about that word just yesterday. That's not going to make you look any cooler than you are already. Not that you're cool to begin
I
with.
would like to play that video of Quentin Tarantino saying, because it's so much fun, man.
yeah, I remember that.
I mean, like, if you want to see something that's very political in a way, look for some political films. If you're gonna try and inject that
Exactly.
sort of stupid shit into a movie like this, like, I'm sorry, but you're not gonna resolve any problems because even if you did, you'll still be an unappreciative fucker, which is what I see with a lot of people on Twitter when it comes to politics. Like, oh yeah, like my favorite president is here, but like it's still more or less the same as it's been before then. Like the world is still the same. Like COVID's not gone for good. So, like that's the
Yeah.
feeling I get from these people when it comes to the way
My,
they
my
react to these
advice,
reviews.
my advice would be don't try to validate your political opinion with movies. Just go and look at the world and shut the fuck up.
And of course, wear a face covering at all times, wash your hands, blah blah blah, be safe, blah blah blah. But you still suck
Yeah, the
dick, critics.
obvious.
No, the audience is cool. The people that reacted to the movie still suck ass.
Yeah, yeah.
And as a result, like Godzilla King of the Monsters has become my favorite Monsterverse film because it's a great way to not only enjoy Godzilla being awesome, see more monsters, especially Ghidorah, but it's also great to like flip off the middle finger at the fucking critics for being real ass slickers to whatever sort of motivations they want because at the end of the day, they suck.
Agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no more $19 Fortnite gift cards for them.
Oh no, what are they gonna do in their spare time? Poor them.
I don't know, maybe they
How
can
are they gonna buy the new toy from Falcon and Winter Soldier?
I don't know, they can get they can get that stuff from Kevin Feige.
Oh,
I mean,
true.
hey Kevin Feige, like we reviewed we were positive with WandaVision. Where's my PS5 skin of WandaVision?
Where are our tickets for the next Marvel movie for Black Widow? Come on.
Nah, like come on, Kevin Feige. We're like the most original reviewers of that show. We say new words about it. We compare it to other stuff. Like, oh yeah, we compare it to other stuff. That's why Kevin Feige didn't give our stuff. Like, oh, move on, guys, move on. Like, forget about it. Kevin Feige's not going to give us respect, but at the very least, he knows what he's doing compared to Walter Hamada. Still don't like Feige though.
No, I mean, one side is incompetent and the other side is man-child. So you don't know where to go.
Yeah, but I know where to go in this case. That being, as Lucas is telling me, to review Godzilla v Kong. Now, this has been the most recent addition to the Monsterverse, and let me tell you this: I love 2014 Godzilla. I like Kong Skull Island, and I absolutely love King of the Monsters. So I was pretty much going in being super pumped to see what, Godzilla v Kong had to offer. And of course, like we got hyped from the Snyder Cut, so that sort of like distracted attention from that. And of course, we
Yeah.
got stuff like Warner Brothers being incompetent with the way they handle the legal issues that Ray Fisher brought up behind the scenes with Joss Whedon and Jeff Johns and like. But
Yeah.
the Monsterverse, I enjoy the Monsterverse. I love the Monsterverse a lot. It makes me want to learn more about the rest of the kaijus, especially from the Toho films. So I was definitely wanting to try and give support to, Godzilla v Kong. And with an HBO Max account from already supporting the Snyder Cut, I thought, you know what, let's give it a shot. Like, I don't have to go to the movie theaters. Like, already my account's already being used for the Snyder Cut, as well as BVS Ultimate Edition Remastered. So why not give it a shot? Like, after all, I'd rather spend my money on that film than say Shazam. But I'm going to be honest and say that Godzilla v Kong is not awful, but it's still a letdown in plenty of ways.
I want to be clear though. Godzilla vs. Kong is by no means bad, or neither, let's say, mediocre. But it is a letdown in the sense that the previous movies were trying to do different things and maybe more innovative things, and this one is just pure popcorn movie.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah,
I mean, the first Godzilla movie has one thing that I guess in all these three movies that are Godzilla in, I mean, just the first one has this identity of the character. Uh, Godzilla, King of Monsters. Yeah, but I mean, it's good, but not. But for me, it's not enough. I mean,
That's
but
understandable.
this one is completely disrespectful, man. I mean, I
Like what you mean? What you mean is they destroy or like it starts crumbling down everything they built to the first one in
I
this
mean,
last.
yeah, you have respect for the characters. I mean, I don't really like how they manage Godzilla here. It's just a monster that destroy and goodbye. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't like that part because, oh, bro, the last movie you made me that character my hero. I mean, and that's not the way you turn him into a bad guy. I mean,
Actually,
not just because of yes.
I think
I
they
mean,
mentioned that. They alluded to that to your comments in a way.
yeah.
Like, they reacted to the fact that Godzilla showed up to one of the labs owned by Dunkachino, and
mhm.
like as it turns out, like at first I thought, oh, yeah, that's some sort of core. Like, what are they gonna do with it? Is that like a nuclear bomb that they're developing? But
Hmm.
no, it's like definitely used for something else, as we find out.
Yeah.
And like, definitely is like the way that threw me off at first was like the opening. Like, I get that it wants to immediately
Okay.
set
Okay. Yeah.
everything up,
Continue. Continue.
but it's kind of funny when it goes from Kong, like happy to see Gia, the deaf but still caring friend of Kong, to then immediately him throwing the stick at the sky, and it turns out that it damages everything. So it's like a sudden shift in like tone. Now it's not like it's going to immediately throw off the movie for me. Like, I'm not going to immediately say that it's trash because of that reason, but it is kind of funny how that worked.
Yeah. The movie just starts off so straightforward and so maybe well depends your view, but it is slightly insulting for the public, for the audience, because it treats you like you won't you won't tell anything from the movie. So every tiny detail they just fucking say to your face, like you can't even think for yourself.
Yeah, and
Yeah, and one thing you mentioned, and I really want to get into this point right now. But okay, the critics are good. They respect that format to present, the movie with all records and these newspapers and all that stuff. It's great. But I don't. I mean, where the fuck are the other monsters and why they are dead?
yeah, it's kind of like a
Why?
kind of question I
I
didn't
know there's a
realize.
comic. I know there's a comic coming soon, but I don't want a comic. I want me to show me what happened to those monsters. I mean, you don't finish a movie. It's like this movie, Resident Evil. The last movie begins with that war that they promise just just when it's finished. I mean, why? Why you didn't show me that war? Why you didn't show me how these monsters disappear or die? I mean, I don't know. I'm very
Yeah,
angry with that. I mean, I'm very
like
angry
I
with
said, the movie says more than it shows,
that. Yeah.
and it doesn't let you think at all for yourself. It just starts vomiting stuff all over you until it ends, and that's it.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
like
But
maybe the fact of showing
but
more than telling isn't the right phrase. Maybe the more appropriate phrase is like beating you over the head with it. But
yeah, they just want to go past it as fast as possible, and that kind of elevates, let's say, the other part of the movie, which is what a lot of people went for, and it is the action pieces and Godzilla and Kong beating the shit out of each other.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, all of that is perfect. Like I wouldn't complain at all. It is perfect, but it really, I don't know, it shadows everything else, and it is kind of sad because it's not always main attraction out of a movie.
Yeah, and talking about like the conspiracies going on involving the Titans, like Bernie. Oh god, your dogs. They thought I was gonna like. They've been trying to look for Lucas or something, but like, yeah, Bernie. Oh wow, Lucas heard him too. Like Bernie Hayes, the director. I think he got his last name right. Like he pretty much like runs a podcast, and he's got like a few friends that tag along with him. That stuff is fine, although it kind of reminds me of like the second group of humans from the first Transformers movie, Maggie and Glenn. Where like you have one character who's involved with all the science stuff and all the tech, and you have someone else that tags along with them. They're as smart as him too, but not directly connected to the source of technology or whatever. And
Yeah,
Okay.
but like instead of being arrested and locked up and being interrogated by uh, I think it was Sector 7 that was there. Like, I know Sector 7 was in the movie, but I don't know if they were like, if it was the FBI or someone from Sector 7 from the first movie.
Oh,
Like, instead
yeah.
of being locked up, like, they were looking for a way to learn about why Godzilla is doing these attacks. So I guess in a way, it's like 50-50 when it comes to the way they handle, like, explaining stuff. Because on one hand, it feels like it's beating you over the head with it, but at the other hand, it's like, no, it's not. Like, it doesn't feel like that. It's just kind of weird.
yeah, yeah. They are very underwhelming, in my
But
opinion.
going more through it when it comes to the way they're going through the like okay, going back to the way Kong is done with like interacts with the humans, like okay, like I like Kong's interactions with Gia more than the trio led by Bernie because
Yeah, I'm with you. I actually would have preferred if they just showed more that dynamic and just cut out everything else.
yeah,
It felt like the other plot line, which is with this trio, would it was all justified at the end for that Deus Ex Machina. That's it.
yeah, which we'll get to in a
It
moment. But
yeah,
like Gia, the way she interacts with Kong, like she is definitely the kind of human that would be perfect. She can't speak, like so she uses sign language
uh,
instead, and that's
Never
one way
thought
for
of
her
that.
to
Never thought of that.
connect herself with Kong much better than anyone else would, especially her adoptive mother. And
yeah,
that surprised me immensely with the way they handled that because like you would think that no, like they're just gonna like try and like torment him, but no, like this little girl knows how to approach Kong better than anyone else. Major props there.
yeah. It fits with Kong a lot. It's actually heartwarming every time they interact. And what the movie still do good is those moments of silence and the humanity. They keep doing
Yeah.
it. So I still appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I really love
and
that interaction.
even
Well, in my opinion, I really love it. It feels, as you said, more human. I mean, how to humanize Kong that's saying, "I'm afraid, I am,"
yeah,
I'm sad. You know?
Yeah,
yeah, like to everyone else, he's just a weapon, but to
Yeah,
Gia, he's a friend.
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, and like that's one thing I like about GVK is the fact that they made a character that's very approachable without her being too cliche. I mean, they could have had like they could have went the obvious way of like some sort of like uh some sort of like girl, like an adult woman that's pretty much trying to bond with him. But in this case, no, it's like this innocent child that means no harm and communicates with Kong in a unique way that no one else can do properly. Hell, one of the one of the protagonists, like one of the guys, was called a coward, and he doesn't know what it means. Like that's why she Gia is a very strong character without her needing to be as strong as anyone else. She's strong because she knows how to bond with Kong, and that movie does a tremendous job with that sort of thing.
You could say she's one of the most powerful human beings in the world because she has access to Kong.
Oh yeah,
He's very
that's true. Yeah.
So,
but even then,
she has a huge responsibility.
Yeah, but even then,
yeah.
I don't think she'd use him as a weapon. Like she cares
No,
about him
she
immensely.
wouldn't. I know.
Yeah, I mean, it is a supposition, man.
But
yeah,
we already talked a lot about her and her bond with Kong. So why don't we talk about the first interaction between the two monsters?
I mean, I really like. I would prefer that this was the first appearance of Godzilla in the movie instead of that when he destroyed it was
lab?
Boston, I guess, or I don't know.
When he attacked the lab in like the Apex place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would really prefer that they don't show Godzilla. I mean, okay, we know that he's destroying those things, but don't show him.
Yeah.
If you really want to make him, the bad guy, don't show him. But when you have your good guy, that's the perfect time to show him. I mean, there are real problems right here.
Yeah, and like
you feel it.
Yeah, I can see what you mean.
Yeah.
Like first they'd be like, wait a second, like why? Like oh yeah, we're gonna fight. They're gonna fight each other, and then you see like him showing up at the lab, and you think, well, wait a second, why is he gonna destroy the lab? I thought he was protecting humans.
Yeah.
Then it makes you think, oh yeah, like
real.
then it makes you think, oh yeah, like I think I know what's going on, especially when we go more through the movie. And as you go more through the movie, the fight between the two monsters is great, even if it, like as you mentioned, should have happened sooner rather than later. But like before we go to like my favorite part of the movie, of course we have to go into the trio led by Bernie, the conspiracy theorists, as we'll call them. And they pretty much go to Hong Kong with the Apex stuff using the monorail in a way that kind of reminds me of Spaceballs.
Are we going to talk about this? Really? I don't know, man.
Well,
This fucking movie was the wet dream of every schizophrenic conspiracy theorist on YouTube. I swear.
Podcasters. I mean.
well, we're podcasters too, but we're not going to go into like Amazon headquarters and look for them, look for their Amazon branded military weapons, now are we? Maybe we will.
No.
But yeah, like when they went into like one of the pods to go into monorail, like that reminded me so much of Spaceballs. In fact, some of the lighting in some of the labs reminds me of like feels weird. Like it's kind of cool, but kind of like futuristic in a way, which makes sense. But if it was more like something that belongs in like Star Wars or Star Trek than on the planet Earth, but that's just me. And of course, when we go into the like as mentioned earlier, like when they go into the monorail, it's definitely Spaceballs. Like I imagine someone saying like, "We have to go to ludicrous speed." What's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken? Prepare ship for ludicrous speed. And of course, blah blah blah. Ludicrous speed, go. My brains are going into my feet. Like that's the feeling I get when I saw the movie, and unfortunately, no one was saying those lines from Spaceballs.
Yeah.
By the way, if you guys haven't already, I definitely recommend you guys watch the Spaceballs movie.
Oh, Yeah, I remember that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good Star Wars parody, and
Yeah.
and maybe expect a review on that movie next year when it turns 2035.
Oh,
Maybe,
okay.
I don't know. But back to Godzilla v Kong. Now we go into my favorite part about the film, that being Hollow Earth. We get to see Kong and his team pretty much going through the ruins, going through the land, and it's just beautiful. Like, sure, it's all CGI, but it definitely turns worlds like this from typical jungles into more ancient worlds. Like,
Yeah.
you can imagine them trying to make places look like they're trying, like, you can imagine some people try to struggle in making these worlds look convincing for different parts of the planet. Like, you can imagine them trying to make, like, ancient, uh, like, settings for medieval times, but it doesn't really, like, work as well because some stuff looks modern or out of place. But in this case, they made a great job of making the Hollow Earth feel like it's not from our world in a way. Like, it feels
Yeah.
abnormal, but it works so well. It's all great stuff. And even when he gets the glowing axe, like, of course, it definitely makes him feel like he's going to become king in a way. He's going to become
Yeah.
the strong one. He's going to take over the mantle. Like, it does a very good job of that sort of thing, and it definitely shows how ready he is to take on these sorts of threats that Godzilla has. But, as I'll find out, what happens next is going to play into what we're going to see with the fight. And of course, the trio of conspiracy theorists discover Mechagodzilla.
Maybe. Uh,
Now, tell you the truth,
that
like,
was that was out of place.
really? Why?
Well, the only thing that I'm going to say about that is thank you. No more.
Like it's super well done, but it came out of nowhere, and it was
I don't really like it, to be honest.
Like, I understand the fact that, like, they want to try and make a threat, but as we'll get into later, it just feels a little. Well, I appreciate the continuity that they use a separate head of Ghidorah to power it up, and
yeah,
weirdly, the aesthetics of the Apex location feel like a vaporwave in a way, or like DJ boosts. Like, you know those, like, when they use blue, pink, purple for lights.
Yeah.
like a dubstep.
Yeah, and they even mentioned that in the movie. But the funny thing is, like, I knew about that the moment I saw it, and they just mentioned it later. But it's just kind
Yeah,
of funny how that works because, like, it's just kind of weird how it shows up. Like, we were pretty much learning about stuff like why is Godzilla going after Kong? Like, oh wow, Kong's into this sort of environment. It's great to see him in the Hollow
Yeah.
Earth. And then we go to Mechagodzilla, which, again, I don't hate, but it just seems a little unusual how he shows up that soon, or that late, rather, if that makes sense.
yeah.
But as we find out,
And
one of the characters that is involved with Apex uses or transfers energy from the Hollow Earth and, like, uses it to help activate Mechagodzilla. But as it turns out, it's pretty much going to be trouble. But until Mechagodzilla shows up, uh, we get to see the fight between the two, and it's great stuff. Like, I like seeing the way, like, before then we get to see, like, the monsters in the throne room freaking out. I like seeing Godzilla making his blast to warn Kong, hey, it's time to fight. And of course,
yeah,
we get to see stuff like the the uh, the way Kong grabs one of the ships that has, like, the one group of people that absorb the energies from the throne room and crushes it. Like, that made me laugh so loud, and it made me very happy because, like, one of the like the one chick that has, like, her team absorb the energy from the throne room, like, got what they deserve.
yeah.
And of course, And of course, like seeing Kong using like an axe made from one of the fins of in Godzilla for the fight, like that was great. And in fact, the fight itself was pretty awesome.
It was. All the fights were very.
Yeah, definitely.
Like the way the both creatures fight is different, and I like seeing how they're able to contrast one another with their fighting styles. Like Kong is
Mhm.
much more reliant on his fists and his kicks, whereas Godzilla is more reliant on biting, tail swiping, blasting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One thing that impressed me is that we're watching here a very aggressive Godzilla because you saw him, making so fast, very fast moves. I mean, I would never imagine that he could make some of this. Was very impressive.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and of course, like your average like fans of the older films will probably think like, oh, it's all about the CGI, but I think it's not the CGI that makes the films enjoyable. It's more so like the way the two fight each other. Like, not to say that the old films back then were terrible, just because like their fighting styles weren't as good, but it's just the fact that you know, like it was much simpler back then. But I like the way that they're able to change up the way the two monsters fight each other. It's like different from one another. It definitely gives them different approaches of how you'd expect to go up against them.
Yeah, I want to mention two things. In this movie, you still feel the fucking creatures are humongous, and you can tell that by all the details and the VFX, which are so on point, and also the sound effects of the movie is
Yeah.
Yeah,
just fucking fantastic.
especially when like the two roar at each other. Like
yeah,
you definitely get, like, of course they're different beasts, but it definitely gives you the mindset that one is much more reptilian, the other one is much more
exactly.
like primal in a sense.
Mm, not
And you
primal.
feel
I
so
mean,
stimulated.
not primal. I mean, just monkey. Just
I mean, to be fair,
monkey.
like the term primal is associated with Optimus Primal from Beast Wars, so it does make sense in a way. But yeah, definitely like love seeing the fight, and hell, I even like seeing the facial reactions. Like Kong is much more aggressive. He has that angry look on him, whereas Godzilla
Yeah.
seems to enjoy the fights, and he even has like a subtle smile to him. But it doesn't
Yeah.
feel out of place.
Exactly.
Like it's not like he suddenly turns into like a cartoon and does a smile. Like it feels like it's organic. It's like it's there, but it's not obvious.
Yeah, yeah. But I have the biggest critic out of them all. Are we allowed to say spoilers?
In a moment, because we're about to talk about well, the fight with Mechagodzilla.
Oh yeah, but this is something before that.
All right, go on.
Monkey loses.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
true.
am not happy. I am not happy.
You're gonna be like 0 out of 10.
There was no reference to the meme. There was no reference to monkey supremacy or monkey being above everything. And monkey loses. Monkey not happy.
I don't really want to talk about this, man. I'm sorry. I don't want.
Yeah, Fred has been depressed ever since. So
Well,
let's just take it calmly, please.
Bro.
Let's try to
Don't say anything in the comments. Just leave us alone.
well, unfortunately for us, we have to continue with the review. But at that moment, Mechagodzilla is unleashed, and of course he kills Dunkachino. And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
the way it's all set up is kind of like okay, like the fight between the two monsters was great. The fight between like Godzilla as well as Kong against Mechagodzilla, good, but not as good.
Nah, not as good.
I don't know. I mean,
Like I like the fact that
Not
like,
as good. But it's
Mechagodzilla has
still fun.
sentience. Like, I like the fact that he has sentience to him. Like that's cool. I also like the fact that he's got like more of a threatening presence overall. But there's just something about Mechagodzilla that makes him feel more underwhelming in a way. But that being said, I did like the fact that he was able to overwhelm Godzilla, force him to try and win as well as he can. But unfortunately for Mega Godzilla, for a regular Godzilla, Mega Godzilla is kicking his ass, and there's very little that a regular Godzilla can do. I mean, he can try and take him down as much as he can, but it's because this machine suddenly has the same powers that he has. Now it's an equal. It turns from an equal match into a one-sided match because the fact that Godzilla was already tired from the previous fight.
Yeah.
And of course, Kong is resurrected after. Well, not really resurrected. He got back. He sprung back into action after the.
That was so dumb. Okay,
Yeah.
let me just say, what? How can they fucking resurrect him like that? And they just they're all scientists, and they say, yeah, the only way to wake him up is doing that.
I mean, to be fair, that shit is highly advanced. I mean, it's not like that. Then it has decent amount of energy. So okay, kind of dumb, but at least it's understandable to some extent.
Okay. Now I want to take that thing. From where? I don't know where they found this technology. I mean, okay, I understand, but when? When did it happen? I mean, I don't understand why. Why they have ships? Like the how do you call this? This kind of plane that goes into the whole Earth.
Yeah.
I mean, how?
Maybe Area 51 gave it to them.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand from where
they have an enhanced version of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just the fact that we're mostly used to the first two films at least having taken place in older time periods, especially Kong Skull Island, where it felt more grounded. It took place in the past, and we only had to rely on helicopters and biplanes. Mechagodzilla is taken care of. He's dead. And the two monsters just roar at each other, and then they leave back to their own places. Godzilla into the water, and Kong into the Hollow Earth. And it ends right there.
And it ends right there. And it just cuts off to the credits, and most of the tiny developments that characters had, they're just gone in the movie. And it just finishes off.
Okay, to be fair, Gia and her adopted mother and the one guy that was called a coward were able to bond with each other a bit. That's something nice. And of course, I forgot to mention this, the way that the conspiracy theorists led by Bernie, how they use we gotta find a way to stop this. Okay, the tension that they get from being unable to power down the machine with the password, that's fine. But when they say okay, let's use some water, and it immediately stops, I'm what the hell? That shouldn't be enough to nearly cause enough damage. Okay, it's 10% or damage, 20%. 15 to be generous.
Yeah, very simple solution for such a huge, complex theme.
Maybe if they were saying, okay, let's try and go further than that. If they destroy the machines by damaging it, breaking the computers, learning from Kong how to be aggressive. They grab an axe or a fire extinguisher and they fucking smash the screens and the keyboards and the devices. That'd work well. Or how about they go to I presume that the skull of Ghidorah was still around? Maybe they go there and they break the guy free from the bond, and it works well. That would have been enough to save him.
Yeah.
But just one. That's sort of anticlimactic.
It just went for that. And just like you said before, everything related to that trio is just so simplistic and dumb. and fast paced. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it pretty much contrasts the other duo, like the other group of humans. Like, not that they have to like use sign language for Godzilla, but it's just like give them a little more meat and potatoes, please. Even if
Mhm.
people complain about the human focus in the legendary Monsterverse films, and
Yeah.
like normally, like we'd stop there with like Monsterverse stuff as well as Godzilla v Kong, but there is something else I want to talk about. Now, as you guys know, like we love Batman v Superman, and you guys probably see us as the BVS shills. In fact, I'm pretty sure some of my friends think that we shill that movie 24/7. And I'm pretty sure some will be annoyed by the fact that we're going to compare this film to Batman v Superman. But truth is that it's unavoidable. Like, of course, from the outside, yeah, two characters fighting each other. There's a V in it. Yeah, like that's one thing. And of course, people could be like, "Oh, I know another similarity. Like, there's like they stop fighting each other because their mom's name is Mothra." Just fucking shut up. But there's another there's more to it than meets the eye. Actually, like for example, there's there's a concern over like the Godzilla type character or like the God type character. We have Superman in BVS and Godzilla in this movie. People are like, wait a minute, I thought he was a good guy. Like, is he a bad guy or what? Like, is he a threat? And we have a group of humans that are associated with Godzilla in a way. The uh, trio of conspiracy theorists, led by Bernie, they fill in the Lois Lane role. We have Kong, who's pretty much in the Batman type role. And their differences are like much more distant from each other. But stuff like Kong getting the axe is similar to how, you know, Batman uses the kryptonite against Superman in BVS.
Yeah.
Of course, we get stuff like the way, like Kong's character is somewhat like he's, I don't want to say broken, but more so like like nor damaged. That's kind of like obvious and like more so like he feels more like he's more like distant from everything else. Kind of like how Batfleck is pretty uh like he's not quite as like interested in going back to the light, especially after the 20 years in Gotham. So
Yeah.
I'll give credit by saying that BVS and Godzilla v Kong were different from each other in terms of Kong and Batman's roles, but their roles are somewhat identical in a way in terms of who they're going up against. Plus,
You can feel there was some inspiration, but they did it wrong
yeah,
because Batman v Superman is all about explaining implicitly and with logic, and it has all a purpose, basically coming from Lex. And here it just happens. It happens and it's all explicit and it's all over your face, and that's how it goes all the time.
plus, I should mention the fact that, you know, we have Lex Luthor in BVS and Don Caccino fills in a similar role. And look at this. Look what happens. We have
Yeah.
Mechagodzilla, who fills in a similar role to Doomsday, using, in this case,
Exactly.
the remnants of a prior antagonist. We have Ghidorah's skull in Godzilla v Kong, and we have Zod's corpse in Batman v Superman.
Yep, it all sounds and looks very similar and very familiar.
And of course, we have the weapon that was used against the Godzilla slash Superman being used against the Mega Godzilla and Doomsday type characters, except no one of the good guys dies. Plus, there is no third monster that shows up. It's like, yeah, it's not like a 1-to-1 copy of Batman v Superman, but the comparisons are there. They're obvious. But the difference is that whereas BVS manages to be much more complex, as you mentioned, Like Godzilla v Kong is like more in your face, like it rubs it in stuff, and it's not as complex. Now, of course, we don't really need to expect that much from like monster movies. Like people would say, like, oh, we want to see the monster fights, but I can at least appreciate that the first three movies were unique in terms of how they approached their own concepts. Like they were very original. They felt unique. The main purpose was for them to be like
Yeah.
new versions of these monster type characters.
I think at the end of the day, it's just a matter of taste and a matter of how you want to be treated as a viewer. If you like to be treated more like how Batman v Superman treats you, then maybe that's more your type of movie, or maybe you want to be treated more in the way Godzilla vs. Kong did, which is fair too.
Yeah.
So we are all free to like whatever we want, but shitting on everything is just not fair. That is the thing that it's not fair.
Yeah, and I want to like Godzilla v Kong, but stuff like the way it sort of feels like a bit of a downgrade from everything else we got before, as well as it's feeling like it's trying to be trying too hard to be like BVS. Sort of got sort of like disappointed me a lot, as well as the fact that it's again not a terrible film. Like it's far from the worst thing I've ever seen. It's got a lot of enjoyable moments, but it just feels more like it was Warner Brothers saying, "Oh crap, we got to get this movie out as soon as we can. Like we don't want a pandemic to entirely fuck up its release." And so I applaud them for that. I just wish the film we got was a little more satisfying, and of course, like it's shorter than the other films, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it does feel a bit disappointing for those that have seen the other films, at least from my experience.
Yeah. So we can agree it is a downgrade for sure.
Yeah, like you don't have to make it 4 hours, but I would at least appreciate if it was like 2 hours and 30 minutes. That'd be fine. Maybe you don't have to add in like any more human stuff, but at least try and add more Godzilla scenes, as well as more.
Have you heard about that? There's apparently a longer version of the movie.
Yeah. And
so we should start a campaign, you say?
Yeah. And like that would be one cool thing, but like I'm sort of 50-50 on this. Like I want to see what they would have to offer, hoping that the new content we get would benefit the film immensely, as well as have more like a monster on monster action. But like part of me feels that it's pretty much another thing of like directors trying to tell people, "Oh, I got my film compromised. Like it got most of the time cut out for this, just because the Snyder Cut got attention, and now people took it seriously at that time."
Yeah, but the difference is that the director of this movie was actually totally okay and fine with it. He wanted it to be cut down after discussing with the producers. So I don't know. Since it is consented, maybe this is the final version and that's it.
Yeah. And of course, we all know for a fact that what happened behind the scenes with GVK is nothing like what we got behind the scenes with the Snyder Cut.
No, it's totally different.
Yeah. Either way, like I want to support what we got if there is the case, but I feel like most people are just running into the release this cut or that cut just because the Snyder Cut, after being made fun of for so long, was finally taken seriously the moment it was announced.
Yeah, apparently everyone wants to be like the Snyder Cut now. All the fan bases want their own Snyder Cut now. Look how funny the tables have turned.
But a better question would be, would they contribute towards stuff like the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention the same way the Snyder Cut fans have? Would they donate to help people combat world hunger, like with Subway, and now with Ben Affleck's Feeding America group?
Yeah, no, they probably haven't. They only care what they want. So.
Yeah, it's sort of a shame, to be honest. But going back to Godzilla v Kong one last time, I I also want to mention the fact that people have been saying like, oh, it's very successful, but like, is it though? I think most people are saying that it's like successful, mainly because of the fact that we're like people are hearing about the numbers. Yet, I have a feeling that again, trying not to sound biased, that the Snyder Cut had bigger numbers in this film. Now, has attention gone towards GVK after the Snyder Cut was out? Sure, but thankfully, like we do have fans that are pretty much saying, "Hey, like, where's the numbers for the Snyder Cut? Like, don't try and hide the fact that it's successful." WB. It just seems kind of fishy that they want to mention all this stuff about Godzilla v Kong, but not for the Snyder Cut. Especially with the fact that the films were released close to each other in a way.
Release the Snyder Cut numbers. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. And one final thing is for anyone that's probably upset at me, like shitting on this film, like again, like I love this. I love the MonsterVerse a lot. I enjoyed the prior three films that we got, but I feel that Godzilla v Kong has issues that make it feel like a downgrade compared to what we got previously. Is it justice levels bad? No. Does it require
Nope.
like would I like the film even if the Snyder Cut was a thing, or if we got like okay, let's just say that Snyder's DC movies don't exist in this world. Let's pretend that they have nothing to do with this. Let's pretend that like Man of Steel or BVS or Zack Snyder's Justice League don't exist. Let's pretend we're not Snyder fans. If that was the case, like I still would think this movie would be a letdown compared to what we got before. Even the BVS comparisons wouldn't be a concern if I wasn't a Snyder fan. I'd still say that it's a major letdown compared to what we got before in terms of the content that was offered.
Yeah. Yeah, I did the comparing later. I didn't do it through the movie or even after it. It was like much later. And I couldn't care less. I mean, Godzilla vs. Kong is just fun, but it won't transcend or it won't be analyzed as much as the other movies from Monsterverse. And it's good to admit that. It's fine. The movie knows what it wants. And it was successful, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, it did its job fine, but I
Yeah.
just kind of feel a little cold after seeing what we got, especially with me being quite happy with the prior three films. Which reminds me, my ranking is fairly obvious. In fourth place is GVK. In third place is the first Godzilla. In second place is Kong Skull Island, and the first one is King of the Monsters.
Nice.
What's your ranking?
My ranking is Godzilla first. In second place, I would put Kong Skull Island 2. Third place, King of the Monsters. And fourth place, Godzilla vs. Kong as well. But the first three are like very in sort of a tie because they are all very good. The thing is that I try to do like an objective type of filter, and I just think that Godzilla has more attributes, but maybe it's not the movie that I would watch the most, like I already said.
Yeah. And I guess one last thing we could say is, well, what would you like to see from the Monsterverse? Because I've heard people wanting to continue the Monsterverse just now, presumably because people are mentioning restoring the Snyderverse and they want to try and get a similar thing out of it.
Oh, sorry. That fell. I'm sorry. I would like the Monsterverse to continue, but they would need to find someone who is capable and ready to make something once again innovative and new inside of the industry. Because if you just grab this guy who's, what was it, Adam Wingard, he was the director of Death Note and other movies which are very underwhelming. You should take it more seriously. It felt like Godzilla vs. Kong was once again a studio-driven movie and not actually a director's movie. So, yeah, I would choose to give one of those products to someone passionate.
Yeah, but I just hope that whatever we get, like, not only do we get any sort of controversies regarding Wonder Brothers resolved, even if it'll take them like forever because Wonder Brothers are cowards. I can only hope that we get what we need from like satisfying sort of continuations because I want to see them do more. Like I like the legendary stuff from the Monsterverse. I enjoy what we've gotten. I just hope that we go upwards and onwards after what we got with GVK, which I was going to say it one last time, not terrible, but not as good as what we got before.
Mhm.
And that pretty much concludes our look at the Monsterverse. And I just realized now that GVK is definitely the one film that got the most amount of attention, but I guess we all know why.
Because it is the newest, and it let us be more retrospective with the other movies. So it's good.
Plus, also additionally, it was a great way for us to like understand how things work behind the scenes when it comes to like if it manages to be as fulfilling as we'd hope. And in a way, it was. 3 out of 4 ain't
Yeah.
bad. But hopefully moving forward we get better. And moving forward, speaking of which, next time you'll see us, we may have to shorten down the amount of content we talk about. But that being said, we'll be sure to see you next time on a new episode of JustUs Podcast. Even if it means removing one bit of content, sort of like how we have to like 3 movies out of the 4 we got from the Monsterverse. But that does it for today. Until next time, take care.
See ya.